The teacup sat cooling on the table. The pecan cookies I'd baked last night lay untouched on a ceramic plate. It was 6:30 p.m., the time James usually strode through the door, but tonight, he wouldn't. I stared at the front door longer than I'd like to admit, half expecting the jingle of his keys. But there was only a heavy quiet, the kind that sinks into your core when something is gone forever. My name is Emily Harper, and for 17 years, I thought I had a marriage others coveted. James was steady, successful, the kind of man who brought calm to any room. He never shouted, was never late, brought me roses on Fridays, wore neatly pressed shirts, and always handled the bills. We never had kids. Our life just fit, like two pieces of a puzzle snapping together, but I was about to learn our puzzle had gaps. James died on a Tuesday. They called it a heart attack. The doctor's face was gentle, practiced, distant. Acute myocardial infarction, he said. It was quick. I nodded, as if it mattered. It didn't. Not when the only person you thought truly knew you was gone. The funeral was a haze, black dresses, murmured sympathies, and strangers praising James. I leaned on Sarah, my college friend, who pressed water and sandwiches into my hands that I couldn't touch. Then my sister, Lauren, arrived, her perfume too sharp, her embrace too tight. Something shifted. I'm so sorry, Em, she whispered, her voice too polished. James was like family. I wanted to believe her, but her eyes held something else, not grief. That night, as she poured wine in my kitchen, she said, I hate to bring it up, but James lent me some money. Can we sort it out now that you're set? I froze. What money? She blinked, then gave a small laugh, like I was joking. Oh, he didn't tell you? Something in me tightened. I couldn't sleep. I wandered the house, grazing the furniture as if it held answers, the bookshelves, the hardwood floors, the framed wedding photo that now felt foreign. Then I saw them, James's keys on the entryway table. Among them, one stood out, oddly shaped, forbidden. The key to his shed. Years ago, I'd asked about it. Just tools, oil, junk, he'd said with a grin. You'd hate it. I didn't push. That was our marriage, smooth, easy, with corners I never explored, but now, I had nothing left to lose. The next morning, I drove to the shed in an old industrial area, past sagging buildings with cracked pavement and weeds. Not James's kind of place. Yet every Wednesday, he came here, regular as clockwork. I never questioned it. The steel door was heavy, the key stiff in the lock. I hesitated, afraid of what waited inside. It smelled of dust and metal. I flipped the light switch and froze. This wasn't a shed. No tools, no junk. It was a shrine to a life I didn't know. Fluorescent lights buzzed, illuminating a room plastered with photos, news clippings, handwritten notes, and maps. One wall held rows of pictures, all featuring James, but not my James. He wore faded jeans, untucked shirts, hair mussed. He looked lighter, unguarded. In nearly every photo, he stood beside a woman, stunning, maybe a decade younger, with auburn hair and keen eyes. They were close, her hand on his shoulder, his smile one I hadn't seen in years. One photo showed them at a lake, another in a mountain cabin, another at a candlelit table. Handwritten dates on the backs, 8 years ago, 4/2/1 from June 2024. That one hit hard. I'd been home that day, making his favorite dinner, thinking he was at a work conference. Now I saw him with this woman and a man in his late 20s, all smiling like a family. On the back, in James's scrawl, Claire and Ethan, June 2024. My legs gave out. I gripped the metal desk to steady myself. Papers were stacked high, bank statements, business records, letters from foreign companies, tax forms that didn't align with what I knew. In one folder, a medical report from Crescent Cardiac Center, dated 6 weeks ago. James's name was at the top, followed by a diagnosis, ischemic heart disease, stage 3, high risk of cardiac arrest. He knew. James knew he was dying. And instead of telling me, preparing me, or even hinting at the truth, He spent his final days building a hidden life with another woman, another family. The young man in the photo had to be their son. My stomach churned. 17 years. I stood by him. And now the man I buried wasn't my husband. He was a stranger who, just 2 nights before he died, handed me a velvet box with a sapphire necklace, kissed my forehead, and said, "You're my everything." I stumbled toward the shed's door, gasping for air, my chest tight, my mind reeling. Who was I now? A widow? Of whom? Then I heard it, soft footsteps, cautious, like someone avoiding notice. I spun around, heart pounding, and there he was, the young man from the photos. Same dark hair, same sharp jaw, same piercing eyes. "Emily Harper?" he asked, voice steady. I couldn't answer. "I thought you'd come here." "I'm Ethan Brooks." He stepped inside slowly. James Harper was my father. The world tilted. I gripped the desk, the only solid thing left. I don't know what I said, maybe nothing. Ethan moved closer, careful, like he knew he was on shaky ground. I stared, searching his face. No mistaking it, those eyes were James's, silent but heavy with meaning. "You're really his son," I whispered. "Yes," Ethan said, unflinching. "I'm sorry. I didn't want you to find out like this." "How long have you known about me?" My voice was barely audible. "My whole life," he said, no hesitation. "He told me he was married, that you didn't know about us. He kept us separate. My mother, Claire, respected that. She didn't want to disrupt anything. But after she died last year, things changed. Claire, gone too, just like James." I sank into the dusty chair by the desk, my legs useless. "Why are you here?" "Why now?" Ethan pulled a folded, yellowed document from his backpack and handed it to me. I hesitated, then took it. "It's a draft of a will," he said. "Unofficial, unfinished. Dad gave it to me 2 weeks before he died. Said the real one would go to you, but this was a backup." I unfolded it, James's familiar handwriting, steady as ever, like on birthday cards or grocery lists. It wasn't notarized, just notes splitting assets, mentioning Ethan, a company called Horizon West Ventures, and something else, access to documents in office vault. Code tied to personal item gifted to E. I froze. The necklace. The sapphire necklace from 2 nights before he died wasn't just a gift, it was a key. My hand went to my neck, though it wasn't there, I'd left it at home, too heavy to wear. Now it felt like a lead weight. "What's Horizon West Ventures?" I asked, eyes still on the paper. Ethan exhaled. "One of his private firms, off the books. He used it to move money overseas. After Mom died, I started looking into it. Found untraceable transfers, accounts in my name I never opened. I think he was setting something up, for you, for me, for all of us." My mouth went dry. "Why?" "Because he knew his time was short," Ethan said softly. "And he didn't trust his business partners." I looked up. "Who?" Ethan's expression darkened. "He never named them, just said if something happened to him, someone would come looking for what he left behind." I leaned back, mind racing. A secret vault, a shadow company, a coded necklace, and a man I loved for 17 years who lived a double life. "There's more?" I asked. Ethan nodded. "I think he left things to protect us." I stood, shaky, taking in the room again. It wasn't a shrine anymore, it was a warning. "I need to go home," I said. "I need that necklace." "Can I come with you?" Ethan asked. I paused, then nodded. Like it or not, this was our story now. I didn't go straight home. I needed air, space to think. So I called Sarah. 20 minutes later, I was on her couch, clutching a mug of chamomile I couldn't drink. The sapphire necklace sat on her coffee table like a loaded weapon. Sarah didn't pry, just waited until I spilled everything, the shed, the photos, Ethan, the will. She didn't judge, just whispered, "I'm so sorry," and took my hand. But I wasn't ready to break. I needed answers, someone to blame. So I drove to Lauren's penthouse in a sleek downtown tower, gated, with valet service, odd for someone always whining about being broke. In the elevator, my anger climbed with the floors. She answered the door in a silk robe, wineglass in hand, makeup flawless, hair perfect, like she was expecting a guest. "Well, look who's here," she said, smirking. "Checking on the widow's fortune?" "Cut it, Lauren," I snapped, pushing past her into the living room. A framed photo stopped me cold, Lauren and James, clinking champagne, laughing. The date in the corner, 4 years ago, made my gut lurch. "What is this?" I demanded, pointing. Lauren strolled over, sipping her wine. "Oh, that? A work gala. You were too busy to go, remember? James asked me to tag along." She said it so casually, like cozying up to my husband while I was home was normal. "We always got on so well," she added, smirking. I faced her. "How well?" Her smile wavered. "I know about Claire," I said. "Ethan, the shed, the secret company, the will. Everything. So if there's more, tell me now." Lauren's eyes narrowed. She set her glass down, hand resting on her stomach. "Fine. You want the truth?" She paused. "I'm pregnant. It's James's." My world stopped. 10 weeks, she went on, voice steady. "I found out a month before he died," Lauren said, her voice cool. "James knew. He said he'd handle everything, that he'd leave Claire soon." I froze. "You were still seeing him after Claire died?" Lauren gave a small shrug. "She was never the real thing. I was the one who stayed." My world felt distant, like I was floating outside myself. The hum of her fridge, the sleek furniture, her smug expression, it all blurred. "You slept with my husband," I whispered. Lauren tilted her head. "Don't act shocked, Emily. You had your perfect life, perfect house, perfect dinners at 6:30. I was scraping by, working dead-end jobs, hearing Mom compare me to you like I was the broken one. Jane showed up, helped, listened." Her eyes sharpened. "You were his routine. I was his freedom." My hand moved before I knew it, slapping her hard. Her wineglass shattered on the floor. Lauren didn't flinch, just smirked. "There's the real Emily. Not the perfect wife, but the woman who just learned her life's a lie." I turned away, hands shaking. "Why didn't you tell me?" "You wouldn't have believed me," she said. "You always thought I was jealous." Maybe I was. But this was about me finally getting something. I shook my head. "You didn't just take something. You stole everything." Lauren stepped closer, her face unreadable. "Say what you want, but this baby?" Her hand touched her stomach. "It's your family, like it or not." My throat closed. I wanted to scream, to break something, to undo it all. Instead, I said, "I'll honor James's will. Not for you, for the baby. They didn't choose this mess." Lauren blinked, her voice softening. "You mean that?" "I don't know what I mean," I muttered. "But I'm done here." I walked out, glass crunching under my shoes, ignoring her call of my name. I didn't go home. The thought of our house, its tidy plates, its empty bed, was unbearable. I went back to Sarah's, the sapphire necklace clenched in my fist like it might burn me. She opened the door, saw my face, and said, "You need rest." But sleep wouldn't come, not with my mind collapsing in on itself. The next morning, Ethan picked me up. Sarah insisted on coming. "You're not opening your husband's secret vault alone," she said, slinging her jacket over her shoulder. James's office was in a sleek downtown high-rise, a satellite space he'd called it for private meetings. I'd never been inside. Ethan had a keycard. "I'm listed as co-owner," he said, swiping us through security. The guard barely looked up. James's life was so segmented, it never needed explaining. The elevator ride to the 12th floor felt endless. Ethan led us to a glass-walled office, cold, modern, sterile. No photos of me, no trace of our life, just a faint cologne I didn't recognize. He pointed to an abstract painting behind the desk. The safe's behind it. I pulled out the necklace, twisted the clasp, and a hidden compartment popped open, revealing a metal plate with engraved numbers. Ethan slid it into the safe's keypad. A beep, a click, and it opened. Inside were documents, a black USB drive, a wooden box, and a silver key tagged First Federal Trust, Safe Deposit. Ethan scanned the papers, contracts, transfers, bank statements. "These are international accounts," he said. He wasn't just hiding money, he was moving it offshore, fast. I picked up the USB but didn't plug it in. Then I opened the box. A gold ring with a small emerald, inscribed, "See forever." "Not for me." "For Claire Jesus," Sarah whispered. Ethan looked away, jaw tight. "He bought her a ring," I said, voice faint. "He was going to propose. Or maybe he did." I couldn't move, couldn't cry. In that cold office, I saw it clearly, James loved her. Maybe he loved me too, in his way, but she got the real him, the one who smiled in photos, who lived. I got the performance, dinners at 6:30, roses on Fridays, a life of polished lies. Ethan handed me a letter, my name on the front. I unfolded it, hands trembling. "Emily, if you're reading this, I'm gone. I'm sorry. I never had the guts to tell you the truth, to admit what I should have years ago. I was selfish, building two lives because I couldn't let either go. It cost me everything. I loved you, though that feels hollow now. I wanted you safe, at peace. That's why I left you the papers, the access, the truth. Do what you want with them, burn them, keep them, expose it all. It's your call. Forgive me if you can. If not, I get it. James." I stared until the words blurred, then passed it to Sarah. She read it, handed it to Ethan. He said nothing. What was there to say? The man we thought we knew had shattered. All we could do was decide what to do with the pieces we left in silence, the kind that comes from having nothing left to say. Sarah drove. Ethan sat beside me as I stared out at the city blurring by, Seattle's gray autumn blending into itself. My husband's secret life was in our hands, and we didn't know who else was watching. That night, on Sarah's fold-out couch, my phone rang. Unknown number. "Emily Harper?" a man's voice said. "Yes," I answered, tense. "This is Victor Grayson, a business associate of James's." My stomach dropped. "I believe you have something of mine." "I don't know what you mean." "You do," he said, voice like ice. "The safe's documents, transfers, accounts I helped set up. We should meet." "I'm not meeting anyone." "You will," he said. "The others James worked with aren't as patient as I am. They don't ask." He hung up. I lay awake, heart racing. In the morning, I told Ethan. His jaw tightened as he paced. "He called me too," he said. "And someone else, Nathan Cole. Claims he's the source of the funds James moved. Said we have until Friday to return everything, or there'll be consequences." I didn't ask what that meant. I didn't need to. Ethan held up the silver key from the safe. "There's still the deposit box," he said. "Whatever's in it might explain who owns what." I swallowed hard. What if it just makes things worse? My voice cracked. "Do we even want to open it?" Sarah sat beside me. "At least you'll know," she said. "Not knowing is what's tearing you apart." She was right. We made a plan. First, the bank. If that didn't clarify things, we'd track down someone who knew what James was tangled up in. He had to have a confidant, a fallback. That's when Ethan spoke up. My mom mentioned a name once, Daniel Pierce, Dad's old college buddy. She said he was the only one who ever called James out, no matter what. "Do you know where he is?" I asked. Ethan nodded. Mom kept his address in Portland. It was in her emergency contacts. We drove 2 hours in silence, rain streaking the windshield like fading memories. Portland greeted us with misty air and towering evergreens, a quiet that felt heavy with secrets. Daniel lived in a cedar-shingled house tucked behind a row of ferns, like it belonged in a storybook. He opened the door slowly. "Emily Harper," he said, eyes steady. "And you're Ethan. You knew we'd come?" I asked. He nodded. "James said if it all fell apart, you'd find me." He stepped aside. "Come in." The house smelled of coffee and old wood. Books lined the walls, a guitar rested in the corner, polished but untouched. Daniel gestured to a couch, then vanished into another room, returning with a sealed envelope. "He left this," Daniel said. "Only to be opened if you both showed up." I glanced at Ethan. He nodded. I tore it open. Inside was a handwritten letter and another will, different from the others. It named Lauren's unborn child, assigning 25% of James's offshore savings to them at age 21. My breath caught. He'd planned for this too. Every detail. We were standing in the eye of a storm James had built, brick by brick. I stared at the will again. Unborn child of Lauren Harper, 25% held in trust until age 21. It wasn't the money that hit me, it was the precision. James was always 3 steps ahead, even in death. "Why name the baby but not Lauren?" I asked. Daniel leaned back. He trusted the child, not the mother. Ethan shifted. "This changes things. Lauren can't touch that money legally." I looked at the will, then the flash drive. "And if she tries?" Daniel nodded toward the drive. "You use that. James told me it holds records, every transfer, every partner, every crime they pulled to build this." Sarah exhaled. "You've got leverage." For the first time since James died, I didn't feel like the betrayed wife sorting through lies. I felt like I held the map to his world, and that was power. Ethan leaned forward. "Emily, we need to stop reacting. We make a move before Grayson or Cole does." I nodded. "We go to the bank." We drove back to Seattle by noon. First Federal Trust sat between a coffee shop and a bookstore, understated, easy to miss. Sarah stayed in the car. "Text if it feels off," she said. "And if they block you, cry. No one turns away a sobbing widow at a bank." Ethan cracked a smile. I didn't. Inside, the vault manager inspected the silver key, checked my ID, and raised an eyebrow. "This box hasn't been accessed in years. It's under a corporate name, Horizon West Ventures." He led us to the basement, through security doors and cold concrete. The air felt heavy. "Standard procedure," he said, handing me gloves. "You'll have privacy." The door closed. My fingers hovered over the lock. "Ready?" Ethan asked. "No," I said, but turned the key. The box slid open. No cash, no passports, just a manila folder and a photo. The photo showed James, Ethan, Victor Grayson, and Nathan Cole outside a black SUV, laughing like old friends. "They weren't just associates," I said. "They were a crew." Ethan opened the folder, signed contracts, shell company registrations, payoff lists, and a document labeled Cole Blackmail Insurance in red ink. "It wasn't just leverage, it was a grenade." "James kept proof," I whispered. "Of everything. He hadn't left me a mess, he'd left me a weapon. It was my choice who to aim it at. We didn't go home. We went to a lawyer, Karen Wells, who'd handled my mother's estate years ago. Sharp, no nonsense, allergic to theatrics. I told her most of it, not the affairs, not Lauren, just the legal parts, the documents, the threats, the offshore accounts. She didn't flinch. "Press charges?" she asked. "No," I said. "I want protection." She nodded. "We'll copy everything, digital, physical. Store backups in 3 places, here, with you, and with someone unconnected." I know someone, Sarah said, her smile tight. We spent hours scanning files. James's records were meticulous: names, dates, wire transfers, fake invoices. It wasn't just shady, it was a global criminal network. With him gone, they thought the evidence died too. They were wrong. By evening, Karen drafted a letter. I added a line in my handwriting: "Try me, EH." We couriered it to Victor Grayson's office. He called in 10 minutes. "You think you're smart?" he growled. "You're out of your depth." "No," I said calmly. "You are." My next call's to the IRS, then Interpol. Silence, then a chuckle. "What do you want?" "Nothing. No calls, no threats, no shadows. Touch me or anyone I know, and every file, every signature, goes public." "You're playing with fire." "I'm already burned," I said. "The difference is, I'm not scared anymore." He hung up. An hour later, Nathan Cole called, voice smooth as silk. "Emily, we're off on the wrong foot." "There's no foot," I cut in. "Just your name on a dozen illegal transfers." He laughed softly. "Hypothetical, of course." I let the silence hang. "Here's the thing, Mr. Cole. I've got no reputation to save, no empire to protect. My life's already gone. That makes me dangerous." He went quiet. I ended the call. That night, on Sarah's porch, Ethan held the flash drive, a copy of the folder hidden in a locked drawer inside. Paranoid? Maybe. But when your whole life was a lie, caution felt like breathing. "I didn't know he had this in him," Ethan said. "Mom said he was layered, but I thought she meant troubled, not crooked." "He was both," I said, staring at the stars. "And more." I paused. "We haven't opened the drive." Ethan frowned. "You sure?" I wasn't, but nodded. It took 2 days to work up the nerve. 2 days of bracing for more betrayal, as if I could soften the blow. Ethan sat beside me on Sarah's couch. Sarah brought coffee no one drank. I plugged in the drive. A folder appeared, for Emily. One video file, dated 10 days before James's death. My hand shook as I clicked. The screen flickered, and there was James, not the polished man from our wedding photos or dinners, but a worn-down version, eyes sunken, shirt creased, like he hadn't slept in days. He leaned forward. "Emily," he said, voice rough. "If you're watching this, I didn't make it, or I ran out of time." He rubbed his face, exhaling heavily. "There's no easy way to say this, so I'll just say it. You were never the one I needed to hide from. I was protecting you, but I waited too long. And now it's closing in." He paused, eyes heavy. "There's someone you trust too much." My heart slowed. He stared into the camera. "It's Lauren." The room froze. Sarah's hand tightened on mine. Ethan's jaw clenched. "It wasn't just a slip-up," James continued. "Lauren planned it, the pregnancy, everything. When I told her I was done, she turned cold. Said if I left, she'd expose the accounts, the shell companies, everything I buried to keep you safe." He leaned closer. "I think she killed Claire." My breath stopped. "I can't prove it," he said. But the timing was too perfect. Claire was leaving, booked a flight to Vancouver. Then the crash. Single car, no witnesses. Brake failure, they said, but she'd had it serviced that morning. Lauren knew she was pregnant. Claire didn't. That changed everything." Sarah gasped. Ethan's fists balled. "I tried to fix it," James said. "Moved the money, made backups, ensured you'd have the power if I was gone. I'm sorry it took this much damage to do the right thing." His voice cracked. "I was weak. But you're not. Walk away if you want, take what's yours and leave them behind. But if you fight, don't do it alone." The screen cut to black. I sat, numb, for what felt like forever. He knew. He saw what Lauren was capable of, saw the storm coming, and still tried to control it, even from the grave, out of guilt, maybe fear. Now I held the truth, and it was time to decide what to do with it. Lauren didn't know about the video when I invited her to brunch. She smiled as I hugged her at Sarah's door, chatting about sisterly reconnection. She wore a soft green dress, accentuating her bump. "He kicks when I eat strawberries," she said, laughing, hand on her stomach. I smiled, but my eyes stayed cold. We sat on Sarah's porch. Ethan stayed inside. Sarah poured iced tea and left us. "I'm glad you called," Lauren said, hands folded neatly. "I thought you were mad." "Why would I be?" I asked, voice low. "Because my husband was sleeping with my sister, or because he left your child part of his estate?" Her smile faltered, the first crack. She shifted. "Emily, this is hard for us both. James was torn, but he loved you." "No," I cut in. "He didn't love me. He pitied me." Her face tightened. "And he feared you." I set the flash drive between us. Her lips parted. "I know about the accounts, the manipulation. I know he was leaving you. And I know about Claire." She didn't blink, just said, "You can't prove anything." "You're right," I replied. "But I don't need to." She frowned. I stood. "I'm not going to court, or the police, or some broken system for justice. I'm walking away, leaving you with the money, the child, the lies, everything you thought you wanted." Lauren stood, eyes narrowing. "You think that scares me?" "No," I said. "But it will." I turned and walked inside to Ethan. That afternoon, I met Karen Wells again, handing her the flash drive, a signed affidavit, and one instruction: if anything happens to me, send it to the press. All of it. Then I went home to the house I'd shared with James. It was silent, heavy. I walked through, touching the countertops, the door frames, the scuffed floor we never fixed. I packed one suitcase from the closet, left the rest. In the shed, I locked the door behind me, not to hide, but because I wasn't coming back. A week later, I boarded a flight to Montana. Clean air, a new name on a lease, a small cabin by the mountains. No secrets, no vaults, no lies. Just me, Emily Harper, widow, survivor. Not the woman who was betrayed, but the one who turned silence into strength.